Number 2, this is a very select group of people who will know what this is, but to everyone who's watched To All the Loves I've Loved, All the Boys I've Loved Before, second one was bad. But this number 2 on the list, John Ambrose and Laura Jean, boo, boo, they were bad, no. Okay, number 1, the worst celebrity couple of all time, Samson and Delilah, bad people. No, Delilah cut his hair. Go look it up. It was bad. Okay. Moving to the top. Number 5. This is like pretty good, and then we'll move to one which is amazing. Number 5, Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber. They're Christians. They're pretty good. 4, Troy and Gabriella. Yes. They are single-handedly the greatest Disney couple to come out of Disney movies. Number 3, I feel like I have to say this because they came here, Sadie Robertson and Christian Huff. Woo! They're Christians too. That's great. Number 2, we have an in-house celebrity, Derek and Kelly. Woo! No, I made that one. I changed that at the end. Okay, number 1, if you know who this is, oh my gosh, Sean Lowe and Catherine Lowe from The Bachelor. Y'all, he was a bachelor. They're Christians. They have a family. Samuel, Isaiah, and Mia are their 3 kids. They're amazing. We can talk about it later if you think of other people who need to be on the list. But I think it's like, while that's all funny and fun to think about, I think it really is true that when we think and inform our hearts about love, we look to the places out here. We look to maybe our friends who are in relationships, maybe friendships. We look to pop culture, to celebrities. We may not even know it when we're doing it, but we look elsewhere and we inform our hearts about love. And what we're really doing is informing our hearts about a fake love. And tonight we're going to be in 1 Corinthians 13. And Paul makes a clear distinction here about the difference between fake love and real love. And I think as we think about the body, us as believers, it's vital to understand the distinction between fake love and real love as it relates to each other. If we don't get this piece, I think that the body begins to disintegrate. The understanding what real love means, as Paul talks about here in 1 Corinthians, is what wraps us all together. It's what binds us, it's what unifies us. And so as we wrap up the series about the body, we're talking about love because love is the one thing that's going to unify us all together. So just like projecting over what we're going to be talking about, we're talking about the distinction between fake love and real love and why it's so important. Okay, so 1 Corinthians 13, y'all can go ahead and turn there. Just a little setup. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. This little part about love is in the midst of John teaching about spiritual gifts. And it's interesting because Paul is teaching about spiritual gifts to the church in Corinth, and he just takes a pause and talks about love. And I think he knows that the people are very tempted to focus on actions, to focus on performance. When we, even in the Christian faith, want to perform, if we don't have love behind it, it means nothing. And Paul knew this about us. He knew this temptation about us. That's why he paused to talk about love in the middle of talking about spiritual gifts to this church. So let's start. We're going to read just verses 1 through 3 for right now. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And so the umbrella that we're going to be camping out for a second is fake love is self-seeking. Fake love is self-seeking. And there's 2 things that I want to point out under this umbrella of fake love being self-seeking. The first is that fake love seeks approval from man. Okay, so Paul talks about if I speak in tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. What's the purpose of like a noisemaker? I just kind of gave it away. To make noise, yeah, well, yeah. The purpose of a noise, like a clanging cymbal or resounding gong, is to make noise, and that's its only purpose. It draws attention to itself. That's all it does. And that's what Paul is relating us to when we try to seek the approval of man. We're just trying to draw attention to ourselves. That kind of fake love is putting us at the center of the picture, and it's saying, hey, look at me. Hey, look what I've done. Hey, look at how awesome I am. Hey, look at how much faith I have. Hey, look at how much I love Jesus. We're then at the center of the picture. And that leaves us empty, and it leaves us void, and it leaves us wanting even more approval. When we turn from left to right and we look beside us and we ask each other, who do you say that I am? We're looking for answers in the people around us, and that leaves us empty, and we fall into it every single day, and we don't even know it. When we're performing, when we are wondering what people are thinking about us when we're worshiping, when we wonder what people are thinking about us at school, when we are doing anything for that matter for something other than Christ, we're seeking the approval of man, and that is falling into the temptation of fake love, where we are at the center of the picture. Galatians tells us that you can't work to please man and be a servant of God. The two cannot coexist. You cannot be a follower of Jesus and seek to get the approval of man. It's like water and oil. They do not mix. You cannot do the same together. And that's what Paul is calling out as fake love. The second is this, under the umbrella of fake love, is self-seeking, is that fake love is powerless. In verse 2, it says, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and I have a faith that can move mountains. What Paul just described is like up here with like the power, like prophecy, fathom all mysteries, have faith that can move mountains. That power is like that powerful. And then he says, but if I do not have love, I'm nothing, which is like down there, like nothing. Fake love is powerless. Loving others with a love that fills your own desires, that love will not move mountains, that love will not perform miracles, that love will not seek reconciliation, that love will not run to your neighbor and find redemption, that love will not seek out someone alone. That love, that fake love, is powerless because we had just put ourselves at the center of it. And we all know that we're powerless. We can't do anything apart from him. And we buy into it every single day. We think that we can do something. We think that, oh God, I've got it. I've got this relationship. I can love them on my own. Or maybe I can just like shove that issue that I have with that person behind me. I can get over it. And you harbor resentment and you put yourself at the center. And that is fake love. And that is what Paul is warning us against in 1 Corinthians 13. It puts us at the center. And it leaves us disappointed and empty and always searching for more. And then he contrasts that with real love. So let's read in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, starting in verse 4. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always perseveres. So the umbrella that we're under now is that real love is unifying. And we have two things to take away from that. First being, real love dies to self. So we're going to focus in on the don'ts of these three verses. Does not dishonor others, not self-seeking, not easily angered, no records of wrong, not delighting in evil. Whenever we think about love and we think about whatever relationship we're in, whether that's a friendship, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, a family relationship, a sibling relationship, we tend to always orient our thoughts around ourselves in the sense of, am I being a good enough friend? Or is he or she going to repay me for this action? Or I did it last time. We always tend to orient ourselves to be in the center. How well am I loving God? And I think I used to be this way. I would wake up every morning and measure myself up against this measuring tape of how well I measured up. Did I love God enough? And the problem with that was I was putting myself at the center of it every single time, and it was never about me. It was never about what I was doing. It was never about if I was measuring up. It was never about if I was loving my friend well enough, my brother well enough, my parents well enough. It was all about the fact that Christ loves us. Real love dies to self. It meets the needs of the people around them. Real love thinks about that friend no matter what has happened. Real love thinks about the friend and runs to them because it's not about ourselves, it's about the friend. And ultimately, we can't understand real love with each other if we don't comprehend the real love that God has for us. I think I'm at a point in my life where that's beginning to shift for me. I used to think that I needed to do something to earn it, to work for it. I couldn't really accept it for myself. And I think as we think about the body, about love for each other, before we can even love each other, we have to understand what God's love is for us. It's indescribable, it's unfathomable, it's so big, it's out here, and then it's in your face, and God's looking at you and saying, son, daughter, I love you. And it's all of the things, and ultimately it culminates into one thing, and that was Christ dying on the cross for you, and he died to himself, his human flesh, for you individually so that you could walk in freedom, so that you would be free of your chains, so that you could go off and to love other people like he loves us. That is why he came. And that depiction of real love, dying to self, is what we're called to every single day. He died so that we could have freedom in love. That love is so unfathomable, indescribable, you can't comprehend. And yet he looks at you in the eyes and he says, I don't see your sin, I love you. That's a crazy kind of love. I can't even, even as I'm talking about it, I can't even wrap my mind around that kind of love. That's how big and expansive and wide and high and long and deep the love of Christ. The second thing we're going to talk about is real love endures. Love is patient at the beginning of verse 4. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and it always perseveres. Persevere can also be translated to endure, and to endure means to remain under misfortunes and trials. It's the same word that is said in James 1:12 when James tells us, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under the trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." James associated persevering with love just in one sentence. Blessed is the one who perseveres, they will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. Love is directly associated with suffering, with enduring, with weathering the storm. And if we think back when we were talking about the celebrity couples, and it was funny, and I think even in this day and age, we've been conditioned, maybe not even knowing it, that when it gets hard, you jump ship. That when you don't feel the feelings of friendship or of a sibling or a parent or a different kind of relationship, you jump ship. And that's the beauty of the gospel, is that Jesus looks at us in all of our brokenness, in every sin struggle that we've ever struggled with, past, present, future, and he looks at you, and he's not going anywhere, and he's enduring. And this makes me think of a story of the sweetest redemption of one of my best friends. Her name is Emily, and she went through a nasty and really, really hard divorce when she was in 3rd grade with her parents. It was really bad, split up the whole entire family, horrible and just heartbreaking. And she has an older brother who's 3 years older, and his name is Wes. And so when the divorce happened and Wes got old enough, he left the house, he left the family. Very, very sad situation. The dad was very manipulative and basically brainwashed him to think that the mom was the one doing everything. It was a really sad situation. Her mom hadn't seen her son in 6 years. 6 years she hadn't seen her son. She didn't talk to him. She didn't know what he was doing. She didn't know how he was doing. She didn't know, really where he was, who his friends were, what his life was like, what he was thinking, if he knew the Lord, if he didn't. She knew nothing. And neither did Emily, my best friend. And this story is such a picture of enduring love, because just this past summer, he finally came home and reconciled with his mom through Emily being the bridge. She showed him enduring love for a year. She sat with him, she listened, she didn't press, she opened the door, she became the bridge of this relationship. And Wes eventually walked back home to his mom, and his mom got to hug him for the first time in 6 years. And it was the most beautiful picture of enduring love I've ever seen, because she never gave up loving Wes. She loved him with her whole heart. Emily loved her brother with her whole heart. And he came home and he was redeemed. And I so often think about this story, and I'm like, in my relationship with Christ, I'm Wes. Like, I have run. I have just turned my back on God. I have been so broken that I don't even know how to get back. You feel so far gone. You don't know where to go next. But God's love endures. Real love endures. It's constant. It's rooted. It's forever. It's past, present, future. It's not going away. It's for you, and it's for me, and it's real. Real love hurdles all of the brokenness, the hurt, the sin, because real love comes from the only one who is above all things and who created all things. Real love means nothing if we don't know who gave it to us. Real love means nothing if we don't know who gave it to us. Christ wasn't seeking the approval of man, and he definitely wasn't powerless. Christ died literally to his flesh so that you and I may live freely and abundantly. He dies for you and for me so that you and I may be set free to something more, to a life that is full of this unfathomable, wide, high, long, deep love that comes from Christ. And so as we wrap up this series about the body, real love is what's going to unify us. When you look around this room, you are the body. We are the body. And when we truly know the real love of Christ, when we truly know who it came from, the Christ who gave us that love, when we truly know that, we can't help but spill out real love onto each other, and that's what's going to unify us as the body. That's why Christ came, so that we could give love to each other, so that we could be unified as the body. We aren't the body if we don't have love. And I think Paul, in pointing out what it was with fake love, knew that we would fall into temptation of giving and believing in fake love. He knew that about us. I do it every single day. But I think as we recognize the ways that we fall into this fake love that's seeking the approval of man and placing ourselves at the center, then we come to realize the good gift that God has given us of real love, where he's at the center and we just to dwell in his love. What a beautiful picture that is. Just to sit and dwell in Christ's love because he is sovereign. And so as we're dismissing to life groups, I want y'all to be thinking about a few things about love. First, what kind of love are you giving out? What kind of love are you believing in right now? Are you walking in fake love, trying to prove everyone around you that you're worthy? Or are you walking filled up with the only love that endures? Also think about, do you believe that God's love is enough for you? Do you really believe that? Do your actions show it? Does your life show that you truly believe that God's love is enough for you? I love y'all. And I'm going to pray us out. God, thank you so much for this time to come and just learn more about you and what you have to say about your love, God. We thank you that your love is just so unfathomable, indescribable, God, that we can't even begin to grasp it, but I just pray that all of us would have a small glimpse of what your love looks like, God, that we would, in some small way, our eyes would be open to the massive and just expansive depth of your love, God. We would experience it in a new way tonight, and that we couldn't help but give it out, that we couldn't help but pour it to our neighbor, that we couldn't help but redeem relationships that are broken. We couldn't help but confess sin that we've been holding on to, God, because we know that you've come to set us free, to walk in love. We love you, Jesus, and we thank you for first loving us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Hey guys, so we're going to have a response time, and so we're going to do a couple different types of worship where we're going to worship with song and with music, and then we're also going to worship by taking communion. And I know we've talked about communion a little bit here before, but we ask that people who are believers, that you take this in remembrance of the body and the blood of the never-ending love that the Lord does have. And if you're not a believer and you're like, what is communion? And I'm blood and body I'm eating, oh, that's so crazy. We'd love to answer your questions if you have any questions. So let's stand, worship. You can kneel, you can sit, you can dance in the back, move, pray, take communion, but this time is yours to worship and to remind yourself of how much the Lord loves you. So. Took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, when I was your foe, still your love fought for me. Yes, it did. You have been so good to me. And I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on. There's no shadow you won't light up, no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. One more time, there's no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, oh, it chases me, fights till I found needs a 99, and I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming love of God. As He loves us, oh, how He loves us. Oh, how He loves us. Oh, how He loves. Sing that again. He loves. Yes, He loves us. Oh, how He loves us. Oh, how He loves us. Oh, how He loves. Last thing we'll sing today. We love you. Yes, we love